Okay, so today you have me, Nathan,
And me, Austin.
and we are going to discuss the ethical dilemma on anti-vaccinations. So before we start off, I was going to give you a little introduction on what exactly the dilemma is in anti-vaccinations. So pretty much today, today's society kind of created a norm with vaccinations, and that's kind of the normal thing to do is to get your kids vaccinated to avoid future illnesses. And when someone such as an anti-vaccinator who does not agree with these practices says no, they're kind of looked at more so like an outcast, and that is where the dilemma comes to play. So to begin, I'm going to go through a blast from the past and kind of show you or tell you more so how vaccinations kind of came into play. So back in the 1800s, there was a man named Edward Jenner, and he actually conducted a cowpox experiment where he took a lymph from a cowpox blister and then injected it into a child, and this was supposed to protect your children by infecting them at earlier stages with a smallpox illness, and that would further assist these kids' immune systems to protect them. And obviously with a practice like this, people began questioning the experiment due to sanitary, scientific, religion, and political reasons. So then in 1853 there became a mandatory immunization law, and if you did not get your kids immunized, there would be a penalty, which usually resulted in jail time. So with everything that went on in these early stages, there became this well-known place called Leicester, where a lot of rallies became known, because there became a lot more anti-vaxxers in the world. And this Leicester place was known for a very, very notorious anti-vaccination demonstration where 3 individuals actually underwent imprisonment rather than having their children vaccinated. And after that happened, in 1898, the penalties for not vaccinating your children were removed, and actually a conscientious objector was provided for parents so that they could receive an exemption certificate and not get their kids immunized if they did not want to. So that was actually a great movement that happened, and it was very important to anti-vaxxers to have this conscientious objector. And since then, there's been a lot more vaccines for a lot more diseases, such as diphtheria, tetanus, illnesses. Diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, which is DTP, measles, mumps, and rubella, which is MMR. And continuing with the dilemma, there's been a lot more talk on whether these immunizations are good for an individual's body or bad. And to go from there, we're going to go into Struthers, and he's going to talk more about today's issues on this dilemma.
So fast forward a decade and a bit to today, where here in Canada, vaccines are actually treated as the norm in today's society. Not so much the laws, but the regulations still stand from when they came to light in the 18th century, where it's not necessarily mandatory for you to get the vaccinations, but it is recommended, and for the individuals or families that choose not to get these vaccinations, they are treated as outcasts within our society today. Just an example for ways that people are being treated as outcasts is actually in our schooling system within Ontario and New Brunswick. So for any children that are being enrolled in school, they must present immunization papers proving that they have gotten their shots. But for any students that do not have them, they will actually be rejected from the school and or suspended up to 20 days until they have their immunizations. But which this has led to many dilemmas and ethical dilemmas, as we are discussing, and many cases against these laws. But there are a loophole, I guess, to this, where depending on your religious or personal beliefs or an individual's mental health, you actually can go forth and go through a process to get a form stating how you have these certain beliefs or mental issue or health issue where you cannot get these immunizations, and you will be able to be processed in the schooling system, but it's a big effort to go through all that, and that's not something that people want to do in today's day and age. So then moving from there, I'll bring us into our three different ethical perspectives, which we're discussing the religious beliefs on this topic, the health and the personal liberty within this. And for the religious beliefs, Canada is a very multicultural country, and there's a lot of information and stuff out there proving that these immunizations aren't good or healthy for us or our children. So because of these people's religious beliefs, they've actually went against taking them, which is kind of obviously shun them almost in society. And that's where they've come up with these strict laws, not laws, but regulations within the schooling to get the children immunized to carry on through into their adulthood to further prevent any outbreaks, I guess, within society. And then move the health over to Tomas.
Obviously, with these immunizations, there's a lot of hidden chemicals and ingredients in each immunization, which we don't really hear of. So obviously, parents, guardians, and certain individuals are going to be a little skeptic on just going gung-ho and giving your children these vaccinations. So an awesome movement that's actually occurring today is called the Green Movement, and its goal is to get vaccines more natural rather than having all these chemically induced vaccines that we don't really know what's going to do to our body, but it's just supposed to make our immune systems healthier and fight off bacteria better. So the Green Movement is an awesome movement that's happening right now, and that's actually helping the health factor of the ethical perspective. And the last ethical perspective is personal liberty. And personal liberty it's a big one. Obviously, every individual wants to do what's best for them, but this is where kind of the law steps into play, because everyone can do what they want to do until the law thinks or says that they need to step in due to health reasons. So with vaccines, it's kind of a hard topic because everybody has their own idea of what they think is best for them and their family. But the law always or usually has the last say. So personal liberty is a big one. And lastly, we have our article, which we will just shortly talk about. It's not a big article, but it's something that's happened recently and pretty relevant. A lady was actually thrown in jail. It was a mother, and there was a lot of miscommunication between her and her ex-husband. She failed to let her husband know what she was doing with her son in school, and she actually went ahead and signed some papers saying she was going to get her son immunized without telling the father, and then actually she didn't get him immunized, and then he took her to court, and the judge actually sent her to jail for 7 days for not communicating with the husband and not vaccinating her son, which is illegal on her part because she signed that she would, agreeing that he was going to get vaccinated, but then backed out last minute and did not tell the father. So that's our article. And lastly, we'll just be stating our standpoints on this ethical dilemma.
So personally, like, my standpoint is, it's almost a mixed standpoint where I feel to a certain degree you should be vaccinated for some of those serious diseases or outbreaks that have happened within the past to stop it from happening in the future. But there's also a lot of vaccinations coming out today that, like Thomas stated earlier, that have a lot of chemicals and ingredients that we don't really understand what's in it, and have through some studies shown that they aren't good for our body. And that's why I believe we should have a say in those certain vaccinations. So I guess I'm more of a, I lean more towards, like, you should get the vaccinations for certain illnesses, yes. But there's also some that may, I guess, be not so serious to a certain degree, where you should have an opinion or option not to take and not be shunned or be titled as an outcast within society, like our children say are in the schooling system.
I agree. Everybody should have their own say, but obviously there's more to that with this dilemma. But my standpoint, I'm more toward the anti-vaccination side. Growing up with a mother who's kind of a gypsy, more so, and she was all about no GMOs, the healthiest food we could possibly eat, and vaccinations were never really a factor in our household. So growing up in that kind of home led me more toward the anti-vaccination. But still, I do agree with Austin on some vaccines being more better than worse. So that is our ethical dilemma, and we are out.
Thanks.